Let me give a quick intro of myself. So Ian Swanson, I used to be the CEO of a company called datascience.com, which was acquired by Oracle just this year. At Oracle, I'm a vice president of product in the data science space, which encompasses AI and machine learning. OpenWorld is an awesome experience, but I wanted to see if we can get together in a much smaller setting. As some of us has discussed, there's big venues, big lines, and oftentimes we can't meet with our peers. And in the room, we truly have peers. So we have leaders within the space. And in putting together this production, I couldn't think of anybody better than Eric to join me up here and talk, because Eric, he's the Chief Algorithms Officer at Stitch Fix. He also used to run and was VP of Data Science at Netflix. I'm not going to try to do justice on what Stitch Fix is as a company, because it's truly unique. But I would love if you can share with the group a little bit of your background and also describe Stitch Fix.
Sure. Well, quick show of hands. How many have heard of Stitch Fix? Most. And how many have tried Stitch Fix? Less. Okay. Well, if you don't know, Stitch Fix is apparel. It's clothing. The big difference is you don't pick out the clothes yourself. You sign up for a service that will do that for you. The value proposition, of course, is convenience. You don't have to shop anymore. But also discovery and confidence. Discovery in the fact that you're going to find things that you probably wouldn't have found on your own. And the confidence part is you usually have a little more confidence in it when it's coming from a professional styling service company. So that's Stitch Fix. It sounds very quirky, but trust me, there's a lot of thought behind the business model, because I dismissed it as quirky when I first heard about it. I was introduced through a VC to Katrina Lake, the founder, and I thought, oh, that's a quirky business model, but let me hear more, because I loved the implied importance of algorithms, right? You're picking out clothes sight unseen to send to people who are going to pay the shipping. You're going to have to get really good at the recommendation engines, right? So at Netflix, we used to joke about we're not very bold about our recommendations, because we show about 100 at a time when you hit the homepage, right? There's about 100 recommendations. If we were more bold, we'd show just like a couple, or how about just one? And if you're just going to show one, we'll just play the movie. And that was the aspiration. You imagine opening the Netflix app, and the thing you wanted to see just starts playing. And that's kind of analogous to what Katrina sought out to do with Stitch Fix, but with clothing. So that's what got me there. The team is now over 100 algorithm developers, and we just went public last fall. It's been a wonderful 6.5 years, a fun ride building it from zero to where it is now. So it's been a great experience for me.
Thanks. One of the common themes that I've been meeting with companies like yourselves is, yes, we talk about AI, machine learning, deep learning, which I put under the data science umbrella. One of the other mandates is digital transformation. And as I define or look at a definition for digital transformation, it's how do we exploit data to increase revenue, reduce costs, improve customer experiences, maybe even create new business models. And I think the catalyst, or one of the drivers, is in order to do effective digital transformation, it requires effective data science. And so data scientists can almost be looked at as the engineers or the architects of digital transformation. So I'm curious, Eric, as you've been in this field, Netflix, Stitch Fix, as a leader for quite some time, how do you define data science within Stitch Fix? And what are the foundations of your team?
Great. It's a good question, because I think the word data science is kind of used differently across the board. We actually named the team Algorithms, very intentionally. 3 reasons. 1, the term data science means so many things that we wanted to be a little more precise. 2, I also have a data platform team, infrastructure, that reports into me, and the word algorithms was more inclusive of that. Number 3, algorithms represented impact, right? This is not about just getting insights and then handing them off to somebody and maybe they do something, maybe not. It's about putting your money where your mouth is, like really implementing automated action. And that's better captured by the term algorithms. And so that's why we named the team. And that is more or less a reflection of the team, about 100 and something people. I'd say about 25 are on that data platform side that are building the infrastructure for the data scientists to work. Now, that leaves out analytics. We do have 5 now, 5 that do analytics. This is more your business intelligence, reporting, dashboards, that kind of stuff. Some, we call it a curated schema, a schema that's much more amenable to querying versus algorithmic processing. We do have 5 now. For 5 years, we went with 0. We said, this was a bold bet that I made, said that we would be great at algorithms, but we'd be merely good, or at best good, at analytics and BI, like meaning we're not going to really do it. We'll have it, most of the value is in the algorithms, and as a side product of their work, some of the data scientists will produce some dashboards that you can use. And that's about all you're going to get. That worked for about 5 years, and then we got the pressure. All right, I wouldn't even argue we're up to the good level. And so we had to bring in, so we hired a woman named Laura, and now she has a team of 5 that is supporting the whole company, but just as 5. I mean, it's a very different weighting, roughly 105. It's usually flipped. But 5 are working on analytics, and she's doing a fantastic job. We have about 100 on algorithms.
To unpack a couple things you said, like first on team. So as we talk to companies like many people in the room, to do effective data science work or algorithms work, as you guys put into production, it requires team, requires technology, requires good process. So if we talk about the team and the makeup of the team, what makes an all-star team or the right team to be able to do effective data science?
Yeah, so of those 3, people, technology, processes, by far people is the biggest one. You don't want to shortchange yourself on data science. I have a nice plot that I use in a talk. It talks about the distribution of talent within data scientists. First, if you think about non-creative fields, things like bricklaying, for example, right? You're bounded by physics, which means the level of talent you can possibly have is restricted, and you get more of a Gaussian or a bell-shaped curve of talent. You get some people that are out at the right tail, very talented, and some people not very talented at the left, but a bunch of people in the middle, and you can't get too far out on those tails because you're bounded by physics. You only have 2 hands, so you can only lay bricks as fast as possible. I always use Steph Curry as an example of this. Sports, too. I put it in the non-creative category, right? You're bounded by physics. Steph Curry is an awesome 3-point shooter, but even he is only 20% better than the average in the NBA. Way better than me, but in the NBA, only 20% better than average. And that's because you're bounded by physics. In other sports, it's even more constrained, right? Usain Bolt, if you look at the distribution of the races, like he's just barely, we're talking fractions of a second better than the next one, right? So it's things that you're bounded by physics, you can't differentiate too much. But in creative fields, which data science absolutely is, you have a very different distribution. It's got this long right tail where some people are so talented that they can be 10 times better than the average. And I mean no hyperbole, 10 times better in terms of their output and their contributions. And I would take one of those all day over 10 average ones. It's that pronounced. So you do have to get top talent if you're really going to do if data science is part of your core differentiation, because it makes all the difference in the world. Even if you pay them twice as much, that's a bargain because you're getting 10 times the output.
So let's stay on that. So scarcity of talent, like hiring's tough in this space.
Absolutely.
So now, being part of, Stitch Fix has grown, it's IPO, it's known for leading within the data science space. It's probably easier to hire talent now than it was in the beginning.
Yeah.
Any advice for the group in terms of finding that talent, the talent that's 10 times best? Getting them to come on board, and maybe also sharing their knowledge with the team to grow the team.
Yeah, well, so out here, Silicon Valley, it's both good and bad. Good that you have, it's a magnet for the top talent, right? People come here. If you're really good at data science, you end up coming here, or engineering, you end up coming here. So great, there's a big pool of them here, but then the competition is fierce as well. You have to compete with Facebook and Google and Netflix and so forth. So you do need to pay at least a competitive wage, but then you're going to have to find your compelling points, because there's other things besides salary that are important to data scientists. I always use sorry for all these hand curves here, but there's diminishing returns with income, right? As your income goes up, it doesn't matter after some point, right? Once you hit subsistence level, your preferences changes. Now you care about interesting work, the ability to make impact, being on the, with stellar peers, all that kind of thing. And that's a great way to differentiate. It means you don't have to pay them as much because they'll sacrifice compensation for those things. And so we have a pretty compelling story at Stitch Fix. if you're a data scientist at Stitch Fix, you get to make tremendous impact, far more than most other companies, because it's part of our core differentiation for the company. So that's attractive. Interesting work? Oh gosh, yeah. We have this unprecedented set of data that makes everything so interesting. If you're into cognitive psychology or consumer behavior or economics, oh my God, this is a playground. Our data looks fake. It's so nicely shaped and clean. You have those bell-shaped curves, and you don't have to test if they're Gaussian. They actually are, right? It's amazing. This looks straight out of a textbook, and you get to have a lot of fun with that. So that's another big selling point. Is right. Interesting work. You get to make an impact. Great data.
So on the impact side, something you and I were talking about is we're starting to see this shift amongst companies where the business strategy, the C-level strategy, was dictating the data strategy. And the shift that we're seeing at leading companies is the data is starting to impact the strategy, of the company, how we sell our products, where the opportunities are, and with that mental shift, if you will, leads to driving more impact by teams like yours.
Yeah.
So was Stitch Fix always within that second paradigm of the data is going to impact the business? And if not, how did you get there? How did you make it so that the algorithms team had such a large impact at the company?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And yes, I think we are in a position right now where the data does drive the strategy. Was it always like that? Probably, but that's a little luck there because I got in so early with the company. It's very hard to make this change late in the game, right? I was one of the first officers Katrina hired, I think maybe the second or third. And being there early, you get to set the tone for the company culture and the way we work. And so, yes, I think we are much more, data is driving the strategy in a lot of ways. I can't claim credit for a lot of because even I did not drive this. Yes. It was the team came up with these things. But we have several dozen algorithmic capabilities that are very differentiating for us for a company. Differentiating meaning it allows us to command superior returns, and they're sustainable, meaning they're hard to copy. You can't just say, if you're a competitor, you can't say, let's do that too, right? You don't have the data assets and the resources we do. So it's going to be hard to copy. Now, most of these, the vast majority, were not asked for, not by me or anyone else in the company. The data scientists came up with them. And they weren't even asked to come up with something great. They were asked to do something. And on the side, they tinkered and came up with something else that was great, not on our radars. And even sometimes we're skeptical of it. It's like, are you sure that's going to work? All right, we'll try it out. And then once you get the results, holy cow, keep doing that. And we'll create a team out of it, in fact. Nearly all of our capabilities evolved that way, kind of organically, conceived by data scientists, set forth by data scientists, and now they're responsible for driving the revenue from those things. Revenue, or in some cases, cost reduction, mostly the former. So very different way of managing, right? This isn't these top-down requirements that come. It's bottoms up through their innovation, yet I got to be careful here. It's not, we don't hire people and just say, hey, go do whatever you want. They have priorities. It's just that they find these other things that we didn't see, and those become even more valuable than what we asked them to do. And so that's been a game changer for us, and it changes dramatically the way you have to manage the company, right? So it puts me in this position of information gatherer. I have to find out what they're working on and bubble these things up. And there are still some top-down things, such as we're now going into the UK, right? That's a top-down decision that we made, and the data scientists are going to have to adjust everything so that works. We've gone through different business lines. We first started with women's, then we have men's and kids and maternity and plus size and all that kind of stuff. Those are top-down decisions, right? So it's a combination of this bottoms-up and tops-down thing that really warrants a big adjustment on how you work in a company.
So as you talk about bottom-up, so you mentioned Steph Curry, sports, data science. It's been said by others, is a team sport, and that team is not just the data science team, meaning ML engineers, the statisticians, and so forth. It's a team sport from the executive level. In most cases, for companies, it might be IT, it might be the application developers. So what is that team within Stitch Fix, and what are some of their various roles?
Yeah, So the way we've organized the algorithms team is there is that data science side and then there's data platform. The data science side is also broken up to align with various functions in the company, such as merchandising, styling, operations, marketing, and so forth. And those groups work with the business representatives in those groups, but it's not a supportive team. I can't emphasize this enough. It is not get the requirements from the merchandisers. It's go bring good ideas to the merchandisers, right? Like I said, most of these things were not asked for. It's nearly all of them were not asked for. And most of them were met with skepticism, right? You have to prove these things out. But there are partners, so there's different degrees of autonomy. Say styling algorithms, for example. There's a small team of these folks that work on like the recommendation engine for the clothes, and they are completely autonomous in terms of they develop their different algorithms. They have to develop fit models and size and style, all these different elements that all get kind of conglomerated into a single algorithm, and those are developed very autonomously. They have a hypothesis, they train their data, and then they're tested double blind to the client, blind to the stylist. We do have humans in the loop, but that's very intentional because we can't afford the bias that would induce into the algorithms. So we keep them separate until after these algorithms pass their test, and then we let them know, hey, we just pushed a new version of the algorithm, it did well. So that's an example of autonomy, like where they don't have to collaborate much, right? And you do need some technical things for autonomy. You need clean APIs so you can push these things. An example where it's not completely autonomous is merch. We need to partner with the merchants, right? There's no APIs for buying clothes. It's the old school retail. You have to call somebody up, a vendor, and you get orders procured and so forth. Not only the merchants need to trust the algorithms. So for example, we have a buying algorithm. This is the algorithm that will go buy the clothes, or tell us which clothes to go buy, right? We buy clothes, we hold them in our inventory, and that's what we make available to our clients. So the buying algorithms or buying is divided into two parts. There's algorithmic buying and human buying. Humans, our buyers, are the expert merchants. They take on buying of new things, right? Things that we have no experience with, no data. We have no data to help us with this. These are things that are trying to predict trends 6 months out. Algorithms take on the rebuying, buying of things that we had experience, we have great data, and it tells us how many of these do we need to buy again, and which distribution centers do we make them available, and so forth. So that's much more of a collaboration, and it's an analogous thing for marketing as well. There, you're going to need marketers, going to have to make those nice, beautiful creatives, and for the ads, and for the emails, and so forth. And you work with the algorithms team on who gets what, right? The algorithms are great at discerning who needs some engagement, what type of engagement do they need, which group should you just leave alone, right? And that's all done algorithmically, but the marketers are going to need to know, collaborate with our creative team to figure out what exactly these things look like. Make sense?
Yeah, so for me, that was a little bit of team and process. From a technology perspective, one thing that I noticed when we had our smaller startup, we hired 50 great data scientists. And a common thing is they would walk through the door, they'd raise their hand, and they'd work in different tools. Whether it was different open source, from languages, libraries, packages, frameworks. And so we set up, engineering a product team to try to build a platform for them. From a tool perspective, a technology perspective, are you guys adopting open source? How are you handling this, people raising their hand, wanting to work in various technologies? In short, this is the technology part of the question. How do you enable this at Stitch Fix?
So yeah, it's very important that you enable our data scientists, right? They are not, they don't come from a computer science background. They're mostly PhDs, but in the other sciences, say math, statistics, neuroscience, things like that. Very few of them are actually computer scientists. But we do have a data platform team that also reports into me, and that is, those are computer scientists mostly. And they write all the abstraction so that the data scientists can do their job, focus more on the math and so forth. Now, First of all, we're in the cloud. If you're not in the cloud, I highly endorse it. We were talking before this. It's about like out here in Silicon Valley, you don't even say cloud computing because everybody's in the cloud. It's not in our vocabulary. But it once was. Back in my Netflix days, we did make the transition from data centers to cloud. And the big thing is the freedom to try things, right? I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, hey, we've got to try out this new thing, and we need more servers to do this. And you go to IT, and they say, oh, it'll be like 3 months to get those servers in and get them racked and all that. And by the way, there's no more space in the data center, physical space, all right? And this was something I was not even confident. I don't know if this is going to work. I just wanted to try it. And once you're dealing with costs in 3 months, you just say, screw it. You'll try something else. But in the cloud, you spin up you don't even ask anybody. You spin up the servers, you try your thing. Oh, that was dumb, it didn't work. You shut it down, and that's it. You can be in and out in an hour. And that is so valuable. It lowers the cost of trials, right? And that's what I call low-cost experimentation or low-cost tinkering, right? You have to be able to try these things. So we do not constrain our data scientists by any stretch. In fact, we gave the platform team the daunting challenge of how do you support this, where we let anybody do whatever they need to do. And so this is, they can spin up their own clusters. We write all these APIs so that the data scientists can spin up their own clusters, run things, and so forth. The platform team had to build in nice isolation things. So if they are on the same clusters, that they don't clobber each other's stuff, and they took care of all that kind of stuff. They make it so that the data scientists can write in a much more higher level coding construct instead of the lower level paradigms. And that's been a big boon for us. I mean, the amount of innovation has really skyrocketed since this was the brainchild of Jeff, who runs the data platform team.
As companies are looking to improve their data science results, and actually just be quite frank, get and achieve data science results. What is a key lesson that you've learned in your career of a challenge that you've overcome, and what was the solution? If we were to give essentially like a piece of advice for people in the room, what's that one key piece of advice?
Well, this is caveated with get good people, and then give them the context they need, the resources they need in terms of compute resources, and let them tinker. Again, we don't give even this 20% time, Google's 20%, we don't even give that. we just know that people's curiosity and drive is so compelling that they will find things. They can't help themselves but tinker on data. They have, they're supposed to be working on this, but they saw something in the data, and it leads them down this path, and they'll chase that down. And again, it's low-cost exploration. It doesn't cost anything to go chase this thing down and find out, is there a there? And if there isn't, cool. They don't even talk about it. But if there is, they develop a new capability for the company that could be just a game changer. And so the lesson learned is, don't assume that all the good ideas are going to come top down. In fact, the vast majority did not. That these ideas have merit. Now, again, remember that caveat, provided you have great people, because you could also have somebody that has a bunch of lousy ideas and it never really comes through. But that's been the biggest eye-opener for me, is just how much stuff there is that I would have never dreamed of. Yeah. Like, oh my God, that actually worked? That's crazy. Go build a team on that, right?
Yeah. Finding the hidden gold. We see that quite often. If you give people some, I don't want to say time, really way to go explore that, you can oftentimes find great results. If I were to recap some things that I heard in the conversation, team's important. You can hire, from a standpoint of the team, hire people that are uber skilled or more skilled than in other areas. It could be almost 10 times as effective. So take the time to hire the right people. Also, enable the cloud, because the cloud is able to help with experimentation on that. And then one thing that I hear commonly is this bottom-up approach, is as we mine for gold and we find gold, figure out that effective path to be able to take it to leadership and be able to act on that. And oftentimes it's a huge barrier that we see. At Oracle, we're building data science capabilities into 3 key pillars. One of them you've heard Larry talk about is our infrastructure. So, autonomous data warehouse and building machine learning in there to protect your data, self-healing. The other part is within our applications. So in our ERP, our CRM, our CX clouds, it's really putting AI that can, out of the box, it's ready to use. And then there's a tools part where there's data science platforms and AI tools where you have data scientists that can leverage those and leverage the best of open source and leverage cloud to be able to build models and get models into production. And so the goal of this stack is to help companies achieve digital transformation, utilizing machine learning, deep learning, and AI. I really want to thank Eric for coming. Thanks so much. I know you got to fly, but
Eaton,
thank you.
Thank you.